Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Robert Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. This edition of Robert Sports Show is going to be a WWE top seven best current wrestlers to never win a world title. So the best 7 guys who've never been a world champion. Obviously, a lot of this stems from what they've done in WWE, what they've done in NXT, and what I've seen them do on the indie circuit. So there's going to be a couple of guys on here that, some of you non-indie fans, you'll be like, who? All I got to say is, once I say their name, you're going to maybe have heard the name before. They're in NXT right now. Check that out. And see who these guys really are and see what they're about. And hopefully you'll be seeing them on the main roster soon. Number 7 on the list is Sami Zayn. One of the NXT guys. He's former NXT World Champion. I've seen him in Ring of Honor, formerly known as El Generico. Some of his moves, he does a 450 splash, he does a DDT, he does an Ole kick, he does a drop kick, powerbomb, and a spike brainbuster. He is one of those guys that can be the future of WWE. He can be, in 5 years down the line, every one of these guys will be the 7 guys, the main guys on the roster, along with who else. But obviously you got guys like a Dolph Ziggler and a Daniel Bryan who've been world champion, who aren't on a list like this, but they're the future. The future is now with those guys. But none of these guys have ever won a world title in WWE. They held titles, tag titles, US IC type. They never held the world title. So Sami Zayn at number 7. Check him out in NXT. Number 6, Kevin Owens, formerly known as Kevin Steen. The first time I seen Kevin Steen wrestle, he comes out and I look at him, I look at J-Man, I'm like, who's the fat white guy? Exactly what I said, who's the fat white guy? He's like, just watch. What are you talking about? He's just watch. Holy shit. First match I seen of his, I'm like, oh, I'm a Kevin Steen fan. I mean, it's like, wow, this guy can actually wrestle, this guy can talk on the mic. This is the kind of guy that WWE needs. This is the kind of guy going forward can lead WWE for the next 10 years. He does a 450, he does an enziguri, he does a moonsault, a super kick, pile driver, crossface, sharpshooter. So obviously he can mat wrestle. He can, brawl with you. He can do anything. He can do ladder matches, Some of his greatest matches, matter of fact, Kevin Steen versus El Generico in Ladder Wars in Ring of Honor, And then they bring those guys into NXT, and as soon as Kevin Owens shows up in NXT, he shows up the night that Sami Zayn wins the NXT title. He comes out at the end and, embraces him and celebrate together like, dude, all those years in the gymnasiums, here we are with WWE. And then Kevin Owens attacks him. Kevin Owens is, and now he's world champion, he's the NXT world champion. I mean, this feud can just carry on. It can be big. This feud between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, if it moves up to WWE, it can be bigger than Randy and Cena was. It can be bigger than Rock and Austin. They have that ability. Number 5 on my list. Currently getting shit on, WWE, Damien Sandow, The first time I seen Damien Sandow was at the 1000th episode of Raw live in St. Louis. And I hadn't been watching wrestling much because it was stupid. Currently, I don't watch that much because it's pretty stupid, some of this shit. And he comes out, cutting a promo on D-Generation X. I'm like, alright, what the hell? And as soon as this guy opens his mouth, I'm like, wait a minute, this guy can cut promos. And I'm talking to J-Man and Quaddy, and they're like, you gotta watch me, I'm like, alright. So I'm watching him, I'm like, whoa. I mean, just his promos, and I start watching him in the ring, and it's like, oh my god, this guy's got talent galore, he's got charisma. What more do you need in a world champion? Yeah, he won Money in the Bank. He's the only guy ever to win Money in the Bank and lose, cashing it in. I mean, the shit on this guy continues. Sticking with The Miz and call him The Mizdow, and he mocks The Miz. I mean, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. You see my last wrestling video, the review of Fastlane, you see I started in the corner like he did. I mean, this guy should be in your main event hunt. This guy should be one of your go-to guys because he has the ability. mic skills and in-ring ability. And that's something that all 7 of these guys are going to have in common. They have charisma. They have mic skills. They have in-ring skills. They have everything you need to be a WWE superstar and to be a world champion. You know, obviously the Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, they gotta get to the main roster. They gotta prove themselves. You know, even Cena's got to prove himself. That's why he's on this list. He just needs to be a world champion. Number 4 on my list. J-Man, Quaddy, and Ryan from Pro Wrestling Pulse, which you obviously see me on. They thought the world of this guy when he first came in. I didn't like him when he first came in. I've only started liking him in the last year. That would be the one and the only, Bray Wyatt. I'm a huge Bray Wyatt fan now. What he did last year, coming in against Cena at WrestleMania last year, yeah, losing to Cena, nobody gets over on Cena at WrestleMania. But still, just what he done in that feud, and then he goes away for a little bit and comes back, and the way he came back in that Hell in a Cell against, you know, it was Ambrose and Rollins, and he returns in a Hell in a Cell to attack Ambrose, and the good stuff that we got out of that feud, and now you got the next great superstar of WWE, and who's he going after? He's going after the top dog at WrestleMania. He's going after The Undertaker. I mean, yeah, he gets some promos on Raw, teasing it, talking about it, but when he came out at Fastlane, and you've seen the reviews, you've seen what we said on Pro Wrestling Pulse. If you haven't seen these, check them out. I mean, we just went gaga over this. We're like, I'm like, oh my God, it's Bray Wyatt in the casket. And you're like, no, it's not Bray Wyatt. Motherfucker, it was Bray Wyatt in a casket. I mean, oh my God. It's just the promo he cut. It's like, if that wasn't the promo of the year, I don't know what was, but guess what? They've gotten better. I don't know how Bray Wyatt does it. He is just, you put a mic in his hand and he's just God. I mean, this past Raw, just what he did with that, you know, coming out with the urn and talking crap on Taker, and then the smoke comes out of the urn and he looks scared, and then he starts his laugh, and the lights go out, and then the rocking chair is there, and then a bolt of lightning to set the rocking chair on fire. I mean, that just, what they're doing with this, the setup of this match, I hate to say this, but I think the setup is going to be better than the match. Not that the match is going to be bad, but the match is going to be pretty good, but the setup is freaking phenomenal. This is the best setup I think WWE's had in a long time. You know, things I like about Bray Wyatt, some of his moves, you know, his finisher, the Sister Abigail, the kiss, and then the move, and then the running senton and running cross bodies. And he's not your, you know, typical, you know, mat wrestling guy, but he's kind of got that catches cat skin style that kind of, you know, does whatever he needs to do to win, and the crowd's behind him. You know, obviously this Taker match at WrestleMania is going to be, you know, freaking phenomenal, you know. And I'll talk more about that in the WrestleMania preview coming up soon. Number 3 on my list, what more can you say about him? Cesaro, obviously from Ring of Honor and NXT and the WWE. WWE's never quite let him, you know, really step out and become that guy that he can become, that, you know, we've seen him in other organizations be. You know, he's got just move galore, you know, the neutralizer, the match, you know, the match killer, the belly suplex he does, the roaring Swiss, the super uppercut, you know, Cesaro swing, and there's different things he can do in the ring. You know, he's got the power, he's got the finesse, he's got the high flying ability, he can mat wrestle, yeah. He can cut promos. He's just got the whole package here, you know. Obviously, currently teaming with Tyson Kidd, and they still haven't named this, you know, the Brass Ring Club, you know, Brass Ring, you know. After they won the tag titles at Fastlane, they're like this, you know, trying to start it. You know, you just got WWE just gotta take the training wheels off this and let it go. You know, let these guys build the tag team. We all know what Tyson Kidd can do. He's one of the CM Punk would have said. And I kind of agree with him. He's one of the most talented wrestlers on the WWE roster, and they do nothing with him. I mean, come on, guys. Do something with this guy, you know, with Cesaro. Let him be that world champion. Let him move forward, you know, in that type of role that can carry your company because he's got the ability. Number 2 on the list, Dean Ambrose. What more can you say? Um, the hook and ladder, he calls it. It's the chicken wing face buster, DDT, midnight special move. He does the Luthez press. He's kind of that, again, kind of like Bray Wyatt, that catches cats can style. You can barely say that word, guys. And he's just, that kind of guy. The promos, again, like everybody on this list, he's got mic skills, he's got in-ring ability, he's got charisma. Just kind of get away from this kitty kind of, insane kind of guy he is, and let him go kind of not to the depths of a Bray Wyatt, but kind of close to that. Let him be himself. Let him be what he was when he was in the indie circuit, as John Moxley. Kind of get him out of the fucking blue jeans. Jay Man has said that in videos, and I kind of agree with it. Get him out of the fucking blue jeans. This guy, his character, blue jeans is not his fucking character. He's another one of those, guys that came from the Shield. Obviously there's another one that's, as good, if not a little bit better, but they're kind of like, 1A kind of type of deal, 1 and 2 on my list. Let him, build from that. Let him be that guy, the next guy. Obviously he's in the Intercontinental ladder match at WrestleMania. Hopefully he does something well there. Number 1 on my list of the current best wrestlers never to win a world title. WWE world title, that is. Seth Rollins. I mean, obviously you've seen videos that I've been in. I've talked about this guy from his Ring of Honor days and from NXT days. You've seen him, what he's capable of, and the fact that he's running the Authority. He's been there with Tripp this whole time. He's been feuding with Randy, been with Randy. What they're letting, he took out Randy Orton on Raw. I mean, the things they're letting this kid do, and he's holding that fucking briefcase still. The 450 splash, the buckle bomb, God's left gift, the springboard, oh god, paroxysm I think it's called, the Top Rock movie he did at the last pay-per-view. I really just went stupid there. I didn't write it down. It's just, the ability this guy's got to pull moves out of his ass, He's kind of a Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho, AJ Styles, all wrapped into one, If you've ever seen AJ Styles, you know what I'm talking about. You've seen Shawn, you've seen, these guys, you get what I'm talking about with this, He can do whatever, the athletic ability. You see him in Royal Rumble. You see what he did in that match. He carried that match. He carried Brock Lesnar and John Cena in that match. I mean, that match was a freaking 4.5-star match because of Seth Rollins. We know Cena can wrestle at that level. Brock Lesnar sure the fuck can't. So, I mean, what Seth Rollins is capable of doing going forward, holy crap. He can carry this company like Shawn did in the 90s. I know 2015, 2016, and beyond, we're going to be looking at Seth Rollins like we looked at Shawn Michaels in the mid to late 90s. I mean, that type of ability this guy has. That will wrap up my top 7 WWE superstars currently to never win a world title. Stay tuned to Robert Sports Show for more top 7s and more lead up to WrestleMania. As always, check out all 4 Robert Sports Show channels. The original Robert Sports Show with the Major League Baseball shows, with the NCAA tournament, Robert Sports Show 2 for all your NASCAR needs, Robert Sports Show 3, which is all your pro wrestling needs, and Robert Sports Show 4 for all of your football needs. Stay tuned to Robert Sports Show Pro Wrestling. Robert Sports Show 3 Pro Wrestling Channel for March Madness bracket of current and former wrestlers. What it's going to be is going to be 68 in the tournament. It's like the NCAA tournament. It's going to be basically playing matches. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set up 34 current superstars in any wrestling. 34 all-time superstars. I'm going to rank them 1 through 68, create the bracket out, and then have the matchups each week. And then as I do the NCAA bracket for each round, I will do the pro wrestling one and break it down and see who I think of all 68 superstars who would be the national champion for pro wrestling. So stay tuned for that. As always, follow all 4 Robert Sports Show channels on YouTube. Robert Sports Show, the YouTube leader in sports channels. Thanks for watching and have a spiffy day.